Hey everyone, I'm Karen with Walsh of Karen's Pots and Glass, and today's video I'm going to be showing you on a way to make some very inexpensive damp boxes for pottery. Now this is for my classroom studio. I have been using damp boxes for years, which are made of plastic. They're like file boxes where I poured plaster in the bottom. It helps to maintain the moisture of student projects so things don't dry out, they don't get overly saturated. But this coming semester I have 2 extra classes between the teacher who teaches ceramics with me next door. She's going to be in my class, so my classroom gets an extra class in here. She has an extra class. Anyway, I had to have damp boxes for 2 more sections of kids, so I need to have a little bit over 50 boxes. So what I have behind me are what I have prepped, and let me turn this around and I'll show you. Okay, so sitting here on my tables, I have all these prepped and ready to go. These are just cardboard boxes that I have lined with some plastic trash bags. They're a little bit thicker. They're not terribly thick, but they're a little bit thicker. These are boxes, I just got them off of Amazon, but you can see that the upper flap I have not folded down yet. I will be folding it down, so ultimately the box is going to be shorter. So I forget if that's like 8 or 9 inches, something like that. I wanted to have something where it could be folded, the flaps folded in, so it's never really going to be covering the top. We're just going to gather up the plastic and cinch the plastic on the top to close it up. So I have 50 of these all set up. Now you can see that I have actually covered all my tabletops with one big trash bag. I just split it open and then like taped it down. So that's going to protect my tabletops. And over here, I still have let's see, 8 more of these bins. Some of them needed new plaster, some of them are brand new and I haven't used them yet. These are like my boxes that I've been using for several years. So these are the Sterlite brand. I actually bought these from Target. They work really well for this. It's nice because the kids can like carry it home with a little carry handle if they need to. It does have an upper little compartment lid, which is kind of nice. So this upper compartment gives them a chance. They can store take-home tools in here if they need to, little papers in there, little things that, you know, maybe aren't wet, they can store in that upper part. And then down here where I pour the plaster, this is where, of course, they store their projects. So these I'm going to be also adding plaster to. And the plaster right here, let me just show you this. It is not just regular plaster Paris. You don't want to use plaster Paris for this. It's too soft. This is #1 Pottery Plaster. And this works best for something like this. Now, if the kid drops the box, it is going to break. So it's, you know, not that strong, but it is dense enough that it shouldn't be rubbing off on the bottom of their pots. So it's all prepped, and in a couple of days I'll come back and I'm going to start to mix it up and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so after my first round of them, I realized I should actually tape down any of the looseness. So I put some packing tape and a crisscross, some this way and some, so I don't have any looseness there. So that was a, you know, it's a live and learn situation. I should have done that initially with the first batch. Okay, I'm getting all set up to start mixing my plaster. One thing that I will point out is I am going to be wearing a respirator. I usually keep this in a Ziploc bag so it stays clean. It's not just loose in my cabinet getting contaminated. It does stay clean except for when I'm wearing it. I also have some large rubber gloves. These are extra long. You can see I already am wearing rubber gloves, but I don't entirely trust these that they might not get a hole in them. So I kind of double it up. And I have my plaster ready to go. And then also this is a large rolling trash can that I have double lined with a couple of plastic trash can liners. And it's a little less than halfway full of water right now. I'm making a really large quantity of plaster and I'd like to make a little bit more to get more of these done. I have to make about 60 of these damp boxes, so it's helpful to have it in a little bit larger thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and I'll narrate it off camera. I'll be narrating this. So it's really important to use a respirator when dealing with plaster because it will generate a lot of dust, as you will see. I've got a hole in one of my gloves there, so I'm putting a little bit of tape on it. Now, the way to mix plaster is you sprinkle it into the water. Don't just dump it all at once, but you sprinkle it. What you want it to do is to fall loosely into the water, so it can absorb the water well. I am speeding this up tremendously because this is a lot of plaster that I'm putting into this container here. And you can see I'm just trying to sprinkle the whole time. I don't want it to fall out in big clumps or anything, just trying to sprinkle. And, this is several minutes that was sped up. And then got a little bit more here from this one. Now, my entire goal is to get it until it begins to mound.
Okay, so you can see there's just a little pile that is sitting on top. When it gets to that point and this little mountain doesn't really break up and go in, then I know I have the right amount.
Okay, now I'm ready to mix it, and I am using my little cordless driver with a paint mixer on the end of it, and I'm trying to get down in the corners as much as I can. I will actually be using one of my hands. Now, normally, if I were making a small or a normal amount of plaster in like a smaller bucket, I would not be using this drill because really you don't want to incorporate air into it, and this has more of a tendency to incorporate air. But it is good to just get your hands down in there and try to make sure that you have no lumps, that you're breaking up any lumps that might be in there. So I'm using both the drill and my hand on this, and that of course is why I'm wearing the extra long glove as well. So this is, again, unusual because I'm making such a huge quantity at once. And then after a few minutes, when I feel like it's been thoroughly mixed and it's starting to be a little bit thicker than like heavy cream, then I am filling my boxes. So I just have like a quart container, and I'm putting in probably about a gallon in there, or a little bit less maybe. And I just want to try to make sure that the bag is laying flat. And with this first batch that I didn't tape down the bag, but then I learned and I taped the bag after this one. All right, now I'm going to use a little alcohol and spritz the top. That helps to prevent bubbles. So here I'm just adding plaster to some of the other boxes, and once I have my quantity in the bottom of it, like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, then I will again spritz it down with the spray bottle of alcohol to help to prevent the pinhole bubbles from forming. And I had to do a couple of different batches to get through all of these, but now I have them all poured, and I wanted to let them cure over break. Okay, so here's one of the boxes. I have been letting it dry for about 1.5 weeks or so. Now I need to clean out any of the little loose plaster pieces, this plaster debris. If it gets in clay, that would be very problematic because plaster, like if it goes in the pug mill or recycled clay, it'll expand during firing it. It will pop. So my goal is going to be to get rid of every speck of plaster that is loose here. So first of all, I'm going to just kind of crumple up the bag, knock anything off of there. Okay, so now the bag should be fairly clean. Let me fold this down. I was going to fold these down anyway. Might as well do it now so you can see it a little bit better. So for my boxes in my classroom, I fold this down and then I cut notches for holes so it's easier for the kids to pick them up and not drop them. Okay, so now I have a whole bunch of loose, chunky debris in here. I'm going to bring this in closer so hopefully you can kind of see. There's a lot of loose debris. This is all the stuff that I need to clean out of here. Now, I'm going to do a couple different things. First of all, I do have a little scrubber pad. This is like a little, I don't know what you call it, one of those little scrubbers for dishes. And I have a bucket of water. I'm going to just make sure that anything that is maybe stuck down there on the bottom, or if I have an irregular rough spot, I'm going to just knock that around. And then I am going to be rinsing in this big bucket of water. I'm going to have the kids all clean their own bins when they get them. And we're going to use a bucket of water. Now, I'm not going to dump that water down the drain. I will dump that water outside, and once I dump it, I'll sweep up my plaster debris that is in there. The reason I don't want it to go down the drain is I just don't need to put the plaster contaminants down my sink. Even though I have clay traps, I'd rather avoid putting that down there. Okay, so I use that to get rid of the little rough bumps. Now I'm going to use my towel. And this is just a microfiber towel that I'm using. And this will help pick up any of the last little bits. And again, I'm going to rinse that out because I want the plaster to fall to the bottom of that bucket. And there we go. Okay, so this is looking good now. I think, oh, there's just one little speck, maybe a couple specks. I'll have the kids check them, after they're done cleaning. But that is good. And then as the kids are using them, I'll leave it open like this so it can dry out a little bit more. But as the kids start using them the next couple of weeks, they're going to learn how to regulate their moisture. So let's say if they have slabs cut out for a piece and they store it in here, what I'll have them do is add moisture to the plaster first before they store their things. The plaster will absorb like a sponge. As long as it's not oversaturated, it keeps things leather hard. So you never want to put so much that you have a sheen or a layer of water sitting on the top. It should be fully soaked in, and then you can store your things in there. We will gather this up, okay? And then I have some little clips that I bought where we'll just clip it shut. If the bag ever gets a hole, I can always stick another bag around it, right? So this is my way to make damp boxes on the cheap. And they can certainly be reusable year to year. Again, if my bag gets a hole, I just put another bag around it all, or take the plaster out, put it in another bag. But this will be a great way to have the kids regulate their moisture. Oh, and one other thing I should mention. Sometimes if they have something, maybe they have something quite dry. Maybe they've let it go beyond leather hard. It's getting in on bone dry. If they need to add more moisture, I have them take a bisque fired cup. I have several of these or a cylinder in my room. They will fill it up with water, put it in there. After they have already added water to the plaster, store their things in there, and then with a little cup of water, where since it's bisque fired, it's porous, it's going to soak through, and gradually add more moisture to the plaster because the clay is going to be absorbing the moisture. So it just helps to keep it a really nice humid environment. So that's my little tip on making damp boxes on the cheap. And it's a game changer, I think, for especially young kids like this, high school ceramics, when they don't have class every day. We have it 4 out of 5 days, or maybe over the weekend. It's always been problematic with them not remembering to wrap their pieces correctly, and then they dry out, and then they try to put together slabs when they're different moistures. So this really helps. It has improved their craft dramatically since I started using these in the class. So yeah, drop me any questions if you have any below in the comments, and I hope you stay creative and keep potting out there.